Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that's, well, absolutely essential if you're learning Java, the Java Collections Framework. Seriously, think of it like the ultimate toolbox that every single Java programmer needs to have. All right, let's start with a really common question. How do you actually manage groups of data in your code? I mean, think about it. Pretty much every app you build is going to have to deal with stuff like a list of users, or maybe high scores in a game, or even the items in a shopping cart. So, how do you store all that and work with it efficiently? Okay, so your first thought might be, I'll just use an array. And you know what? That can work, sometimes. But arrays are pretty rigid. They have a fixed size, which can be a real pain. Luckily, Java gives us a much better way to do this. It's called the Collections Framework. And trust me, it's a game changer. It's designed to do all the heavy lifting for you. So, what is this Collections Framework, really? Well, at its heart, it's a built-in part of Java. It's like a library of pre-made tools that are super efficient for handling groups of objects. It basically gives you a standard, powerful way to do things, so you can stop reinventing the wheel and just focus on building your actual app. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to look at what these Java collections are all about, specifically the core interfaces. The whole framework is built around just a few main ideas, and we're about to explore the ones you're going to be using all the time. First up, we've got the list. And honestly, this is probably the one you'll run into the most. It's super intuitive, especially when you need things to be in a specific order. The best way to get your head around a list? Just think of a simple shopping list. You write items down one after the other, right? Each one has its own numbered spot. That's pretty much it. So here are the key things to remember about a list. First, order is everything. The items stay in the exact order you put them in. Second, duplicates are totally fine. You can have the same item multiple times. And third, you can grab any item you want just by knowing its position, or what we call its index. And look at this example. It's perfect. See how bread is on the list twice? No problem at all for a list. This is awesome for when you need to keep track of a sequence of events exactly as they happened. Okay, now this is where it gets interesting. There are two main flavors of lists you'll use, array list and linked list. So how do you choose? Well, here's the deal. If you need to quickly look up items by their position a lot, go with array list. It's super fast for that. But if you find yourself constantly adding or removing things from the middle of your list, linked list is going to be your best friend. It's way more efficient for those kinds of changes. All right, let's grab another tool from our toolbox. This one's called a set, and it's designed to solve a completely different kind of problem, one that's all about making sure every item is unique. So, what's a good way to think about a set? Easy. Imagine you're making a guest list for a party. You wouldn't write down the same person's name twice, would you? Of course not. Every guest is unique. So the number one rule of a set, the most important thing to remember, is absolutely no duplicates. If you try to add something that's already in there, Java just ignores it. Simple as that. Oh, and one more thing. Unlike a list, a standard set doesn't really care about order. So look at our guest list here. If we try to add Bob a second time, nothing happens. The list stays exactly the same. And this is so useful for things like storing unique user IDs, or maybe a list of tags for a blog post where you don't want any repeats. Okay, next up, we have the queue. And the name pretty much says it all, right? It's all about processing things in the order they arrived, just like, well, waiting in a queue. Yup, the analogy is perfect. Just think about lining up at a checkout counter. The first person who gets in line is the first person to be served. That's exactly how a queue works in Java. This whole idea is called first in, first out, or FIFO for short. It's the defining characteristic of a queue. You always add new stuff to the end of the line, and you always take from the front. This makes it perfect for things like managing a to-do list of tasks or handling incoming requests on a server. All right, let's talk about our last major tool, the map. Now, maps are a little different from the others. They're not really about storing a sequence of items. Instead, they're all about looking things up. The best way to think of a map is like a dictionary. You have a word, that's your key, and you look it up to find its definition. That's the value. It's that simple. Or, like an address book where you use a name to find a phone number. So the big takeaway from maps is this. They store pairs of keys and values. The key has to be unique. You can't have two entries for the same key. But the values, they can be whatever you want, even duplicates. And the whole point of this setup is to make looking things up by their key incredibly fast. And this shows you exactly how it works in code.
You use a method called put to store something. You give it a key, like username, and a value, Alex. Then, whenever you need that value back, you just use the get method with the key. And bam, you get Alex right back. It's super efficient. Okay, so we've covered the big three: list, set, and map. That's your core toolbox. But now for the most important question, right? How do you actually choose which one to use? Let's break it down with a quick summary.
Think of this as your go-to cheat sheet. It's really this simple. Need to keep things in a specific order and duplicates are okay? Use a list. Need to make sure every single item is unique? Go for a set. And if you need to look up values using some kind of unique ID, a map is absolutely what you want. Look, getting a handle on these collections is a huge step in becoming a better Java developer. Seriously, choosing the right one makes your code cleaner, faster, and just better. So you've got the toolbox now. The only question is, what are you going to build first?